What I'm showing to you right now is a build between alpha and beta. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Guild and what it's about more or less, or do you want me to do like the general what it's about, or it's good? Yeah? Alright. So the Guild is a realistic medieval strategy game set in the late Middle Ages in Northern Europe. So it's a realistic game, it's not about magic swords killing dragons or anything like that. It's not about building armies and invading people. It's about your character is going to start a dynasty and you want to achieve permanence by economical strength and political strength and essentially dominate the map that way. So it's not, it's an RPG slash strategy game slash life simulation more or less set in realistic settings. What I'm showing is a build is between alpha and beta. So there's a little bit of glitches left and right on graphics and stuff that we're polishing. I'm just going to go through the information. So essentially, very quickly, the Guild 2 was released 10 years ago, and since then it was done by another developer at the time. And since then, there's been a lot of improvement in technical, possibilities. And there was a lot of design changes that we wanted to make as well. But we wanted to keep the core of the game as being a real Guild game. We did not want to reinvent and make it something that it's not. So the same basic tenets of the game are there, the same kind of professions and skills and stuff like that. But what we wanted to do is to unify all of these concepts into something that made more sense a little bit. When we started working with it more and analyzing the design, it was very clear that there was multiple paths to do a lot of things, multiple things that you had to upgrade, and it was a very steep learning curve. A lot of these games are very complex, and we're keeping it very complex. Watch out for the step. So we're keeping it very complex. All of the elements of the first guilds are there, but we've ordered them in such a way that it makes more sense for the player because they're introduced one at a time. When you're starting out, you're just a peasant serf, so essentially a peasant. No one knows you, no one cares. So you don't have to worry about politics, you don't have to worry about secret societies or your reputation with the other dynasties in the city, because this is something that is from further apart. You need to worry about your own character first, grow from there, and then eventually start to bring all these elements one by one. So of course, one of the things that we've changed is the visual style of the game. The game is being powered by the visual engine that was used to make Darksiders. So Darksiders 2. So it is a little more advanced. We've added realistic day-night cycle, weather effects, seasons, all of that without having to load or stuff like that. It's not just about showing pretty pictures. It's not a gimmick to have nice screenshots. All of that has impacts on the game. If you're at nighttime, then it's easier to pickpocket, to steal houses, but you can be attacked as well. It's a little bit more dangerous time. When it's winter time, there's no more crops, so food is more rare. You have more disease. People are stockpiling food during the fall season. So all of these things happen because we wanted to create a realistic-looking city, a city where people would like to play. Something that personally annoyed me is that these medieval games that we were seeing, buildings were spread out left and right. When you're seeing a real medieval city, everything is built on top of one another. Buildings are very close together within the walls. So we really wanted to create a city that felt, normal, that felt like it's supposed to be. So that was one of the objectives. The other objective that I mentioned is, and by the way, we just have 15 minutes on each game, so I can talk and talk and talk for a very long time, but you have to interrupt me if there's something that you'd like to say, just, complaints or questions or whatever, just, shout them, because otherwise I can miss something that you would find important. So I talked about unifying the progression of the character, because otherwise it was very complex. And essentially we borrowed concepts from RPGs where we unified everything into experience points, and experience points opened up levels of skills. Like right now I chose handicraft, so with handicraft I can just build basic items, but as I'm going to gain experience, I'm going to unlock further levels. I'm going to be able to build more stuff, do more actions, construct businesses. Experience point as well unlocks secret levels. So I'm working to become a commoner. When I get there, I'm going to be able to start building things in the city. When I become a citizen, I'm going to be able to start petitioning for office. So all of these ingredients are there. Everything that you could do in the prior guild games were there. But we separated them into 3 tiers, as you can see here. So the first tier, the dominant tier, pretty much behaves like an RPG. So you have to do the things yourself, you have to do the actions yourself, you just want your character. You don't have to worry about businesses or other things then. But as you're going to be acquiring wealth, your character is going to be starting to become a business owner, then you're going to have employees to do these things for you. So the game slowly switches from an RPG to a management game, more or less, a strategy game. And then when you become a nobleman, you're going to see that businesses, nobility brings up politics and brings up secret societies and brings up more these kinds of intrigues. So this is a new concept that gets unlocked as you're moving on. At the end of the game, when you have pretty much unlocked everything in your high level, then you have all of the complexity of the game. But you gained it one layer at a time instead of having very big investment in learning all of the components of the game all at once. Even some actions that you have done in early parts of the games are not going to be as easy as it was before. Right now, if I was shoplifting or stealing houses left and right, I could be caught, I would be fined, I would be sent to jail, but it would be not a lot of consequences because I'm not well known in the city. But if I were to do these things as a nobleman, where everyone knows me, then my reputation is going to take a hit. People are going to stop coming to my businesses. If I do a lot of very rotten things in a city, like if I send people to jail for no reason, if I start, messing up with people too much. After all, this is the 1400s, so it's the birth of humanism, the birth of human rights. Soon there's going to be cries for, democracy and things like that. So popular uprising is something that we always wanted to do in a game like Gilde. So even at high level, if I become too much of a ruthless nobleman, like if I become some kind of Lannister character, then people are going to come to my house with torches and pitchforks and essentially drive me out of town. So something that was easy in the early part of the game becomes increasingly more complex as you're well known because the consequences are more dire. So you have to hire people, you have to be sneaky and unhanded in order to achieve your goals. Yes?
You talk about the buildings in the city. The last games, there were real places, real cities like Mainz or Frankfurt.
Yeah, this is very
are they in the new game also be cities they will know like? Real cities, you mean?
Yeah. We have, like in these first 4 maps that we brought for this show, we had Visby, Magdeburg. There was a guy in the public booth because the public booth has 6 PlayStations, and there was a guy from Magdeburg, like actually there, and he was saying, is this map going to be in the game? Yeah, these are the maps in the game. He's like, okay, that bridge is supposed to be larger, but he said it pretty much looks like what it looked like in the Middle Ages. So yes, it's all real places. Right now we're building Paris and London. We want to put Prague. I'm not sure if we're going to have time for it. So all of these real areas are trying to be reproduced as fairly as possible. Now, of course, we need to downscale everything because we're like simplifying the cities, because otherwise it would be, technically accurate and historically accurate, but extremely boring to play. We can make maps that are 16 times the maps of Gilde 2. This is fun and it's large, but our characters don't have cars. So if you have to go from one end of the map to the other to fetch resources, a year and a half passes before you get to come back. It's kind of, so we're trying to balance out gameplay with accuracy as much as possible. Still have just a few minutes. One of the core things that we wanted to make, the company that I work for, Gilde, has always tried to put artificial intelligence as much as possible in our games. Now we didn't want to have generic enemies, like a lot of times AI are like generic AI 1, generic AI 2, and they're always behaving the same way. This is a game that can be dry if you wanted to. It's about optimizing trade routes and optimizing your businesses. So I wanted to bring a lot more depth into the characters. So we've spent a lot of time configuring the families and the way AI works so that you can see real differences. Again, if I can use like a Game of Thrones example, if you're dealing with a Stark, you're dealing with a Lannister, they're both noble houses, but you're not going to threaten them the same way or try to fight them the same way. If your warehouse gets burned down, you sort of, even if you don't have proof, you sort of know what kind of family could be able to do something like that. So this is something that we're incorporating in the game as well, so that you, even if you don't have actual knowledge of the families, you have their reputation, you sort of know what they are, and they're going to behave in that way from one generation to the other. One of the core tenets of that game that I should have bug out is that we start in the 14. Sorry, my voice is almost out. We start in the 1400s, but your character is going to age, and eventually he's going to die. He's going to die from old age or for being poisoned or attacked or whatever. But this does not mean the end of the game. This is a sandbox game, and it carries on. So as long as you have descendants, if you have children, they're going to be able to take over, and your son or your daughter is going to take over. You know, when Ned Stark dies, there's another Stark that takes over the line. So in this game, it's the same thing. One of the important things that you need to do is to find a wife, because we're Puritans, so you cannot have children outside of marriage, and start making children. Or you can always go to church and buy an orphan there and carry on your line like that, but it's not as it's a roll of the dice about, you know, if the child is going to be healthy or not. So you need to think about the long term, you need to think about your descendants and really building a dynasty as much as possible. So I just have about a minute left. The game is up to 16-player multiplayer. I know that Guild 2 has some problems with the multiplayer code. We have not reused any of the assets of the prior guilds, no source code, no anything. So there's no out-of-sync bug, there's nothing like that. We're trying not to introduce new bugs, but the old bugs are no longer there. We can save multiplayer games and resume them as well. So we could have like all the playing Tuesday sessions in Guild. If someone cannot join, you can always assign the AI to just manage your family while you're not there, so you can resume the gameplay session later. And all of our families are linked to our accounts, so we cannot just piggyback others' families and steal others' families. So we can, you know, think long term when you're playing multiplayer games like that. And it's scheduled for release in a few months.